Welcome to the Dream Journal. From the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz, the Dream Journal is a weekly show where we explore the power of nighttime dreams through conversations with dream experts and with listeners like you.
In the house behind, the life you find is something understood. So
In the words of Carl Jung, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. Today's music is called Theophany. Today, dreams as the architect of our reality, artificial intelligence, and human consciousness. Also, how dreaming corrects errors in our worldview. Our guest, Harry Bont, speaks about what he calls cybernetic dreaming. I'm your host, Katherine Bell of Experiential Dreamwork, and welcome to the Dream Journal. The Dream Journal is also a weekly podcast. Please subscribe, rate, and review. But most importantly, tell your friends. We're getting people to talk about dreaming, and one way you can do that is by telling them about the podcast. You can find archives at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all those good podcast places. Also, ksqd.org/the-dream-journal. Plus, we are now on PRX. If you'd like to contact your local community radio station, get them to pick up a few shows of the Dream Journal. I think they'll be glad they did. All right, welcome to Harry Bont.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Harry. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Yes, thank you for having me.
With a background in both electrical engineering and psychology, Harry Bont's approach to dreams lies at the nexus of technology and psychology, what he calls the cybernetic perspective on dreams. Today, Harry will explore how dreams reflect and are shaped by the ever-evolving intersection of consciousness with the universe. And the webpage is monadcompany.nl, monad, M-O-N-A-D, monad, is I'm saying that right, monadcompany.nl, because of the Netherlands. Our guest is calling in today from the Netherlands.
That's right.
So good to have you on the show, Harry.
Yes.
So you are the local host, which means you're doing a lot of work for the upcoming IASD conference, and
yes.
And you know, you sent me a whole list of topics, and I instead went to your talk that you're going to be giving there, because we'll definitely hit on a bunch of the topics that you sent along. But I was really intrigued by the title of your talk, which I think would be a great place to start. Dreams as the architect of our reality.
Yes.
And subtitle, Harnessing the Anthropic Universe. So I have questions.
Sure, go ahead.
So we're talking about like how dreams shape reality. Dreams as the architect of our reality. And maybe we need to start about what is our reality? What is the brain? How do we perceive reality? And then how do dreams play a role in that?
Yes, I think we start to explore our world when we're just little babies, and, you know, looking at our toes and our fingers, how they move, and that's the first exploration of our world, and it never stops, right? The exploration of our world never stops, and every exploration is different as well from any other, right? So your experiences are not mine. So I create my own reality by my own experiences that I've had. The teachings that I've received, the wisdom from my parents that I've, carried along, and so that's really my reality. It's not yours.
Very true. And we have what we learned from the other humans in our world, but also, just like you say, our fingers and our toes and bumping into the wall and the neighbor's dog. There's so many things that we learn along the way that are totally unique to each individual.
That's right. When I think of my grandma, I think of a coffee grinding machine that was on the wall, and I smell the coffee still. But you might have a totally different memory there. So a grandma for me is not your grandma.
Right. Very true.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we create our reality by experiences, but also more important, I think, by beliefs that we build up later on in life, convictions about how things really are, and we sort of get stuck in those bubbles of beliefs. And I think dreams play a big role in creating that reality. Overnight, we're mending our world models all the time.
Because of course we might have a certain belief about the world, but then that belief can change. Like the belief that things always go wrong for me. That can be something that we learn early,
right.
but then we change those beliefs as we go, hopefully. And you're saying that dreams have a lot to do with updating our beliefs, correcting the errors.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I believe that we won't change our beliefs or world model until we bump our heads against something that doesn't work. So I believe there's a big connection with elevated emotions during the day and dreams as well. Because when we have a big surprise about something's happening or a negative emotion about something that's happening, I think that's the moment where our world model doesn't fit reality, and we're like, how does this happen? And that's for now in this reality, in this safe reality of our modern world. It's not too bad to be surprised or to be surprised by something that's happening. But back then, when we were hunter-gatherers, you better not be surprised by a predator around the corner.
Oh, I don't know. I actually think the modern world is pretty perilous in many ways. I mean, driving is one particular example where you could meet your death in a second.
That's true.
But I like what you're talking about emotions, because that's something that I'm really keen on, and I think dreams have a lot to say about emotions. And you describing emotions as say a little bit more about emotions. Like what are they? They have emotions during the day, and then we also have emotions while we're dreaming.
Yeah, I think. So here's my take on it, and I think emotions are sort of give a direction to a solution always. Something's wrong when you have negative emotions. Everybody knows that. Like something, what's wrong, and then you tell a negative emotion. So that's no surprise, right? But I think they're there just to label or to put attention to that weaving error, as I call it, the weaving error in your world model. Right, there's something wrong there.
Weaving area. Maybe say a little bit more about a weaving, what that is.
Yeah, so because we start to build our world model from early on, it's like threads that we weave together, and we weave threads while we talk right now, and it never stops, right? We're always weaving these threads of our experience into our world model. But sometimes you learn something that is maybe true in that moment, but it's not true in general. It could be parents. Parents have a big influence. Like, they say, you're not good enough, or you're not smart enough, or whatever. And you take that as a true thing. And later in life, you have to, mend that weaving error. And the earlier on you have a weaving error in your world model, the harder it is to mend it, because everything is built on top of that. And that's why I'd like to talk about weaving, because it's built upon each other all the time. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that brings me to the question about reality. Like, what is an error? Like, is there a reality that we're making a mistake around, or?
No, it's just this. So if you and I have the same surprise in the same situation, and we agree that something's wrong there, you could sort of negotiate the truth. But just on your own, it's just, you never know the truth. You never know reality. I think you can sort of come close to it maybe, or closer, but you never know it for real. So that's how I see reality. It's always shadows on the wall.
Right. Okay. Okay. All right. So then let's get back to emotions and how emotions are giving us a direction. I think is the way you said it. That they like if something feels good, then then we're going to go towards it, and if something doesn't feel good, then so it's more about feeling good or feeling bad. What do I prefer or not prefer?
Yeah. Right. So for example, when in this theory that I'm still writing it down, but anthropic universe theory, I have this 5 levels of hierarchy that we build our world model with, and they all have their own level of emotions. And one of them is on the level of goals, where we get irritated and frustrated and angry, and that actually, so that emotion means somebody is somebody is in the way of my goals, and that's all. So if you're frustrated or irritated while driving, you know that you sort of feel like I'm not paying attention enough to my own goals. I'm wasting my time here.
Oh gosh.
Something like that. Yeah.
Absolutely. I spent like 10 minutes yesterday looking for a credit card, and then where did I put my purse down? And it's like it should have been like instantly. I should have found it immediately, but it was minutes for me looking. It's very frustrating. And it's certainly a theme for me in my dreams. Dreams of frustration are very common for me. I think for most people.
So the negative emotions point to weaving errors, and then of course the dreams try to mend these errors, like change something in your world model so you will not bump into this surprise anymore. And that's where positive emotions come around the corner, because something that you learn to manage just shortly before, and that works out, gives you a positive emotion, and it's sort of an end to a process of growth. And you'll never have the positive emotion about something similar every day, right? It's always something new that you're very positive about. So I think negative emotion points to something's wrong, needs to be adjusted, and positive emotions is no need to change anything. This is good enough.
And yet there's something I get a lot of good emotions out of traditional things that I've done, like ritualistic things that I do every day, like with my partner, or like I get a lot of pleasure out of some of those things, and that's encourages me to keep going towards those things. In fact, I'm just going to jump in and share a piece of a dream I had last night, where I was organizing this festival or conference, and I had all the volunteers I needed. It was all ready to go, and there was already the festival. And as you are a part of the organizing the conference, and I am as well. It felt like things are kind of on track, which was a very good feeling, because in waking life often I can be frustrated, but in the dream it was a very positive feeling.
Right.
So let's segue a little bit into dreams and how dreams have to do with this weaving of the reality, and how they correct these errors that you're talking about.
Yeah, right. So it's my conviction that we dream. It's not like a coincidence that we dream or just a happenstance. I think they have a real utility, and it must be because we spend quite some time dreaming, and quite some energy as well. And as you might know, from an evolutionary standpoint, we never just do anything just because. It's always like it has to have a utility, otherwise you're not going to spend energy.
Absolutely. And all animals that they've studied in this way have some kind of rapid eye motion that so even like spiders and octopuses. So there's something powerful about dreaming across the whole spectrum of life.
Right.
So there's something very utilitarian there, very helpful. Otherwise, it wouldn't be.
And I think it's it didn't start that way. Probably like we didn't start dreaming right away in becoming human. But
you mean like amoebas, maybe not?
Like amoebas, But we had like a rest periods because there was no sunlight, and slowly you become you're inactive, so you shift processes that you could suspend for a couple hours to the night, and then in the more complex animals like humans, we start to do cognitive and emotional work as well, and I think that's what dreaming is. And it is like, okay, I experienced something, and I need to do something with that because I need to not let negative stuff happen again, because that could cost me my life, right?
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah. So that's my idea about dreams. So and of course you can't dream. You just have so much time to dream. So there has to be like some priority there. Like, what are you dreaming about? And probably the most elevated emotions will be picked firstly, because they're the most shocking to you. Probably not the credit card you couldn't find.
You mean the emotions in your waking life, or
in your waking life? Yes. So
okay.
yeah.
Can you give me an example, maybe? So.
Oh, sure. So it could be so it doesn't need to be something that you experience during the day right away. But let me say, when I was the other day, when I was like feeling insecure during the day about my work, in the night I dreamt about my mother being alive still, and so that was really clear because I've been doing a lot of personal work for a long time, and my personal insecurities partly are connected to my mother, and that made sense. It's like, oh, of course, I need to mend something there still. It's an ongoing process. So during the day, I felt insecure about prospects of work, and that's really directly coupled to my mother, because she never understood anything. I was a nerd when I was young, and she was like a very emotional, personal mother, and not technically at all. So she was like, I don't know what he's talking about. So I felt insecure. I wasn't. So that's deeply connected there. So when I feel insecure, I often dream of my mother.
Okay, and I can imagine a dream of a mother going many different directions. It could be comforting, it could be stressful, and maybe all of these. But you're saying it basically points to some weaving errors, perhaps that maybe happened in your worldview when you were young. Yeah.
Well, what I say is, it has to be something that happened in the last 2 days, because they think. So here's the thing: when you're struggling with something and have a negative emotion, there's like this chemical label attached to the network of your brain that only lasts for 2 days. And I think this is what is picked up by the dreaming process to address, like, okay, we're dreaming about this because this is the most elevated emotion that's there. And it could be something simple that you do during the day, but it could have the roots in your childhood upbringing. So you could dream about something that's been a long time ago, but triggered by something that happened yesterday.
I see. So that kind of weaves together the past and the present.
Yes, it does. Okay. Yes, not only the past and the present, but also, for sure, our evolutionary history as well. So we might also feel something there, because what is also a weaving error is that we're living in a different world than our ancestor hunter-gatherers, who were not living in a modern world like us, talking over miles via the internet. So what the instincts that we have from them do not match our world right now. So it might go back a long time, not just our personal experience. And also the collective unconscious, like Jung says, comes to bear there.
Yeah, say a little bit more about that. The collective unconscious. Maybe just say a little bit about what that is and how the dreams work with that.
Yeah, I believe that's, wisdom from the past, like this works really well, is sort of transferred from one generation to another. And these have become sort of building blocks of the human experience, and Jung calls them archetypes. So they could be things that work well, or building blocks of the world model. This is how the world works, like the mother archetype or the warrior archetype or whatever. And I think that is not just a coincidence. That is because that's very convenient to know how these things work, and when they're ingrained in your architecture of your brain, like you sort of intuit them right away when you first come in contact with them. That is a very convenient thing to have, and I think that's the collective unconsciousness is this inbuilt wisdom from way back.
Oh, I'm kind of joking, but I'm also kind of not. I wonder if this is how monarchs know how to do their migration. They do over generations. Like they go, from North America all the way to South America over several generations, and yet they know which way they're going, north or south, and they know exactly the right place to go to, even though they have never been there, but it was generations ago.
That's right. Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Could
and
it be
I think
dreaming, butterfly dreaming, huh?
Yeah, cool.
So there's something there. Like I recently was reading about finches who have very complex language. They actually have learned language, and that they have shown evidence that these finches are dreaming about making these songs at the times that they're learning at certain ages, and so that this is one way that they learn. So you can learn from waking life, but you also maybe can bring things up from the collective unconscious, or similar.
Right, or you could uncover it from the unconscious, like it is dormant, right? But when it's needed right now, so that's why I believe in the recency, the triggers that come from recent experiences.
Yeah.
We're not going to waste energy on something that might be useful in the future. We are spending our energy and time while growing or changing our brain on stuff that's needed right now.
Right now, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's about the present, but then we are still affected by the past as well.
We're that's why I like the term weaves, because we're a tapestry of the past.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So we need to take a short break, and I want to thank you so much for being on the show, Harry. We have much more to talk about. This is Harry de Bont from the Netherlands, and we are talking about so many different things. What is that title again? Let's go back. Dreams as the Architect of Our Reality, which I think is a wonderful way to ground things. And we'll be back in just a few moments. I want to say that we are broadcast live from the KSQD studios in Santa Cruz and co-broadcast live in San Jose by KCXU. Welcome back to the Dream Journal. My name is Katherine Bell, and we are here with Harry de Bont from the Netherlands, and we are talking about consciousness and reality and error correction, and how dreams help us correct our world view. And talk about self-learning. Like this is what we're saying, that humans have a way of learning about themselves, and then they also maybe have some kind of collective unconscious. I'd like to talk just a little bit about artificial intelligence. It's kind of a buzzy topic right now, and my understanding is the way that they're trained is they're just given a lot of data, and then they get to have their own kind of response to the data based on experience. It sounds a bit like what we're talking about, how humans learn.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what I think, so the first idea about my theory came from studying AI, actually, like learning from the processes that how these models train. I was like, wow, that sounds like dreaming. And so this is how it started. So an AI model really learns from its errors, It's like, do something, and we'll tell you how wrong it is, and then do better.
Right.
And it does that over and over until it's perfect.
Yeah, and then of course the question comes up is, does AI dream of electric sheep? And that's a little bit of a riff on the Philip K. Dick story. And so, but they, as far as we know, don't have any collective unconscious the way we do. Like if there's some influence from, or do they?
I think they might. I mean, you see, let's have look at OpenAI's ChatGPT. It's trained on the collective knowledge of all of us. So in that, is everything that we know, and they might infer all these biases that we have from that. So they might. I'm not sure.
Apparently, that's one of the problems with AI is that that AI is just as biased as humans are, and just as prone to lying, apparently. Because
it's mother and father.
For good or for ill, we have spawned it. Now, I wonder if you have anything to say about AI dream interpreters, because one of the questions is like, what is if for even any kind of dream interpretation, like a dream happens and you wonder what in the last few days did that triggered that, and how is that connected to my deep past? And do you have recommendations about working with AI with around dream interpretation, or other kinds of ways of using AI?
Yes, definitely. I'm currently working together with two colleagues in researching the practicality and utility of AI in dream research, and so I think it's very promising. In a way, it's able to reflect back. It's ChatGPT has learned to think symbolically, and this is dreams is all about that, right? So it's very fluent in thinking symbolically. But also it's able to visualize your dreams, and that's a very powerful tool as well, because and then suddenly you can share not only the story of your dreams, but also how it looked like, and I think that's a really powerful tool as well.
So like creating an image from your dream and then giving it to ChatGPT, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's what we're doing in the research right now. Yeah.
Could you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so this started a while ago when I provided a workshop for a company that wanted to have an inspiration day for their employees, and the topic they choose was dreaming, and they picked me as their guide in that day. And what I came up with is, why not visualize the dreams with ChatGPT, and that worked perfectly. And I was so positive about that I posted my experience on Instagram, I think it was, and then a researcher from England reached out if we could work together on that topic. So I'm now part of a research team there.
So you create an image, using AI, I suppose, to create an image, and then give that image to AI.
And then you can share that image with somebody else, and talk about it. And then we were like, okay, but an image is just an image, and a dream is a story in itself. At least you have 3 phases in a dream always. So now we work with a dream storyboard, sort of a cartoonish, first, middle section and last section. So we work with 3 images, like how it starts, how it develops, and how it ends. And that's very powerful as well. And not just for sharing, but also for reliving the dream itself, and realizing others' insights that you might have missed consciously. And I think that way you can strengthen the effect of dreams, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've often realized that I really don't know what dreams are doing. I mean, I have theories. There's a lot of research about it. Nobody really knows, but one thing that we do know is that they're valuable, because they would not be with us evolutionarily all these millions of years if they weren't important. And so as a dream coach, one of my favorite things to do, one of my most important things to do is to just spend more time in the image and in the feelings that come up with the dream, and trusting there's something valuable in just those images and those feelings. Maybe I'm rewiring my brain, or maybe I'm, unburdening my soul, or I don't know if that's even the same thing. Like, is there?
It's probably all the same. Well, I think so. We're all looking at the same diamond through different facets, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's the different language that we use. So one thing I wanted to bring up, you mentioned confidence and the idea of fear and courage in humans, and I wanted to say some more about that, and what is that, and how dreams influence that.
Yeah, so we talked earlier about the world model, and I think our world model is not just a picture of the world. It's a very dynamic, active model, and it's at least layered in different layers of hierarchy, and in that world model, we also have like two behaviors, like how do you behave in a situation of danger, and how do you behave in a situation of rest. And my belief is that as we are talking about survival always, when it's from the evolutionary standpoint, it's like, how can I keep myself and my people alive, so survive when there's danger, and be creative, think of something new and something better when you're in a period of rest. So I think response to fear always have a different color than when you're have a response to a restful period, or a courageous feeling. So I think there's two colors to this behavior: is how do we behave when we're sensing fear, or perceiving fear. Actually, it might not even be true. And a lot of weaving errors come from that as well, as I told in the first section, because we respond instinctively to situations because we're hunter-gatherers, and we think behind every bushel there could be a predator. So when your manager at work is very angry at you, you're like suddenly responding instinctively, and you get laser focus on the danger, which has become your manager, and you're suddenly losing the oversight of everything else because you're constantly looking at your manager. And that's an evolutionary fear response that's not effective. And the courage comes around with this feeling of like, this manager is in my way of reaching my goal, is to take responsibility and ownership yourself and do something despite this feeling of your manager is obstructing you. And that's how you have to develop yourself. And I think that's a big weaving error, is, this manager is not going to eat you alive. He's just doing his own thing. And I think we're all dealing with those weaving errors as well.
And so I'm not quite following how dreams fit in here, or how fear turns into courage, or how this kind of primal response can.
So I would say like the fear response is always instinctive, and it's so imagine that you're a hunter-gatherer. You have to respond really quickly to the danger that's out there, right? So if a predator is there, you have to act instinctively. So that's how our brain is wired as well. If we perceive something of a danger, we respond instinctively, right away and very fast. Before we can think about it, like, is it really true? Is it really dangerous? We already did something, responded already.
Right.
And that's not effective because it's not a wolf or it's not a bear, it's a manager. You get the weaving error there. And this manager is like, this employee is not cooperative and I don't know what he's doing, but he's acting weird. So he's like doing his thing as well. And then you get tension on the work floor and emotions around that. And you'll be dreaming about that for sure.
Right. Well, it's pretty common for bosses to show up in a dream. That's for sure.
Definitely. That's why, because, they are seen as, this is the on the level of your goals, and he's an obstacle on the pathway to your own goals.
Right.
And I think authority figures are common there. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, thank you. So we have a question here from Max.
Okay, hi. I like the analogies you're using. Are they part of your dreams too when you do them? Do you dream of managers a lot, or bosses a lot, or the weaving errors? Because the weaving errors is the most interesting analogy I've heard you use. It sort of seems very medieval almost, with the early weaving machines and knitting and stuff like that. The question is, does this imagery and these analogies show up in your dreams?
Some of your personal dreams. Let's get personal.
Oh,
Harry.
right. That's a good question. Yeah, they do by now. So this is actually when I started to develop my own theory. This theory become part of my dream as well. So not the manager set per se, but the idea of weaving became part of my dreams as well. So yeah, that's true. I think you can create your own dreamscape as well in that way.
Do you have any suggestions of like how to work with our own dreams based on the idea that this is all part of creating our own and correcting our own reality?
Yeah, I think you can enhance. So if you like this idea, of course you have to first like this idea of weaving errors and the dream being a mending process at night. So what I do is reflect on the emotional parts of my day before I go to sleep, and then, as it were, the last thought that I have before going to bed is about that, like, oh, that went well and that didn't went so good. So maybe I can inject that into my dreams, and when I wake up, I feel, and that's where this confidence comes back into play. I feel confidence, or I don't feel it. Yes, because mending process doesn't mean there is success every night. It could be a very complicated problem that you're dealing with, and it could take several nights or sometimes months before a weaving error is really mended. And when you wake up without much confidence, that means you still have to be careful, trying to try yourself a lot there. And
to try yourself?
What I mean is like, okay, let's just do something challenging there. So that's why I always say, take notice of your confidence in the morning, because it tells you something about this mending process. Is it done already or is it not? And being aware and conscious about emotions during the day, reflect on them before bed, and then take notice when waking up, of course, of your dreams and the content of it, but also the level of confidence you feel, because when the process of mending is not done yet, you feel this as confidence is not there yet. You're like, I don't feel like starting the day, or I feel low in energy, or I don't want to do this, or whatever. And that could be insecurity because there's an error there still, and it's not mended yet. So what I try to do is to enhance this process of mending the weaving errors that way by consciously thinking about it.
Okay. I like that idea of bringing in the emotional things that happen during the day before going to bed. I'm often slow to fall asleep, and so I have all these different things to do as I'm waiting to fall asleep. And that sounds like interesting, but I don't want. I want to be careful I don't get myself all head up again, all riled up about whatever it was that was bothering me that day, and yet just think, think kind of abstractly maybe.
Well, Katherine, here's the thing. As soon as I developed this theory, my relationship with negative emotions changed because it started to turn into something that points me in the direction of personal growth instead of something I want to discard or get away from. So my relation to negative emotions is like, oh, it's something I can learn there. And I feel more at ease with negative emotions since then.
Okay. Oh, well, that's promising. And then I imagine you have something to say about nightmares as well. It's like, if I have a...
Yep.
Why don't you tell us what your relationship to nightmares is?
Yeah, so nightmares is, I think the definition of nightmares is that the dream is so emotional that it doesn't finish, right? So you wake up with this negative emotion and it's recurring. So this means that there's like a sort of, you're stuck in a loop there. You can't mend it because the dream is too emotional. And during the day, you bump your head against the same problem over again. And because of this being stuck in the mending process not happening, you get recurring nightmares. And I think also you can only handle so much during the night, right? So and when there's a lot going on and you have to mend a lot, you get like a backlog of stuff happening. And I think that sometimes happens as well. So that means that I think that means that you sometimes have to take a break just to, manage all these emotions. And often we don't have the time or the freedom to do that. And that means that, our emotional problems get a backlog and we can't mend our problems, and from something small becomes worse, and that could become a nightmare in the end because it's a big mess and we're not mending anything. And right. I think paying attention to your well-being, taking it slow because you're not feeling confidence there, and taking a break and take time to heal actually is really important. And we don't allow ourselves that, or society doesn't allow us to do that, right? So that's often in the way.
Yeah, and of course there's the extreme case of PTSD, and like veterans or people of victims of car crashes or other kinds of horrible events often get in this phase of nightmares. It's one of the definitions of PTSD is recurring, repetitive nightmares about the trauma.
Right.
And so that's an example of something that's stuck. And so a mending process that just isn't happening.
Right.
Yeah. I actually was just going to share, I had a series of nightmares recently. I had a couple of months, like January through the middle of February, I had quite a few nightmares, and I've been editing my book, and it's very different from writing it. And I was very resistant to the process of removing parts of my book. It's too long, way too long. So I knew I would have to, but I want every page. I want them all, of course. And so I had just lots and lots of nightmares. But then something shifted, and I can't even explain what. But somehow something shifted in the last month or so. I've found the editing process a lot easier. Like somehow I'm like, okay, I can let go of that. So whatever error in my brain was happening, I was able to let go of that. And I don't know exactly what it was, but somehow suddenly it's a lot easier. Now I can I don't really need that right now. And so I can remove that.
Yeah, that's, of course, all this babbling about weaving your world model and mending the errors in there, it's really not necessary that you know all this for it to work, of course.
Absolutely.
It can just work, and it happens anyway.
Yep. It works on its own. It's one of those evolutionary processes like breathing and digestion that
it does.
Works on its own. And we can still it's interesting to study, and it's curious to speculate on what it says about our own level of reality. Because, dreaming, if we're talking about reality, let's go to the idea that dreaming itself is a fully created reality between our two ears that nobody else ever shares, except for dream telepathy or something. But basically, it feels very real when we're in it, and yet when we're awake, so the world feels very real too. But will this feel like a dream after we die? Is our dream saying something about the nature of reality?
I think you have to turn it around. So the world model that I'm talking about is what's your conscious awareness of reality during the day, and it's, if you look at the bandwidth of information that goes into play there, it's mostly this prediction from this world model that drives our awareness of reality, and our sensory input is just keeping track of is it really so? So we think we see reality through our eyes, but if you study this subject, it's mostly the expectation that we have what we see, and so I think the world model that we dream of is the very thing that we notice during the day as being real. It's the same thing. It's the active world model is what we think is reality, but it's just a symbolic representation of reality, and that's what we dream of.
So then when you take away the actual reality, like the hard physical, table and walls of our reality, then we get the dream world, and then we just have our own, I don't know if we want to use the word projections, but our own assumptions, our own model.
Yeah, and our own construct of reality. It's also, if you study this, you see that we can't store everything as is, because that doesn't fit in our heads, right? It's too much. We can't put the world in our heads, so we have to sort of crunch the data. And that's where you get simplicity of your world model is sometimes needed to just work, and that's why dreams can be so absurd sometimes, because this representation of reality sometimes is just simple or weird, but it works, right? And that's I think very intriguing how we do that and how that works.
Well, Harry, this has been a great conversation. We have just another minute or two left. Is there any particular topic that you want to bring up here as we're getting ready to finish?
Oh, sure. Well, a lot, but for only 2 minutes?
Yes.
Well, I think maybe, I'm not 20 anymore, and I think what's very important is to the plasticity of your brain is very important, and I think really living through your emotions and feeling them very intensely is very important for personal growth, and I think that will keep you going for a long time. So I think there is something there. If we talk about psychological health as well, it's to really be in reality and feel everything, and not shy away from hard things, and like people sometimes do is close the curtains, close the door, and just sit at home in a safe place. That, I think that's really important. That's my takeaway from all this, is negative emotions are there for you to learn from. And when you're really in that, place that you're like, okay, it feels hard, but it's really a place of growth. And
Negative emotions are a place of growth. I love that. So this is Harry de Bont, and your webpage is monadcompany.nl, NL for Netherlands. Monad,
Yes.
MONAD, monadcompany.nl. Are there any other ways folks can get in touch with you? Are there any offerings you have coming up you'd like to tell folks about?
No, not really. If people want to connect with me, they can visit my webpage or my Instagram. And
you want to say a word about your coaching practice?
Yes. So I coach people usually in their careers, but also in their personal lives. Help them make decisions when it's hard to, or overcome trauma. And I coach people. I try to do that for a long time, so it's not like just 1 or 2 sessions, but it's usually a couple of months, because growth process is something that needs attention and time.
Absolutely, yes it does. Harry de Bont, it is totally a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in Royal Duck in June.
And the same here, Katherine.
All
Thank
right.
you for having me.
Sure. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Okay, well, thank you so much for listening. The Dream Journal is produced at the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz, and we are live every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific at ksqd.org. The podcast is released on the Monday after the show. It keeps us growing when you subscribe, rate, and review. Thank you so much for all your wonderful reviews. I am Katherine Bell. You can find out about my dream coaching practice at experientialdreamwork.com. You can email me at Katherine@ksqd.org. Katherine is Katherine. Follow Experiential Dreamwork and hashtag The Dream Journal on Facebook and Instagram to find out about upcoming shows. I'd like to thank Rick Kleffel, engineer and music creator. And these intro and outro pieces are both by Mood Science. Thanks, Max, for being in the studio with me. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up, take a minute to write down your dream and bring it to the next Dream Journal.
Okay. Had an old thought in the old town, waking up, feeling down, was what I learned in the old school. Is there's no fool like an old fool. Make the most of the moments you've got. Time you spend can never be bought. Make the most of the moments you've got. Time you spend can never be bought. On the high street in a low mood, walking slow with an attitude is what I knew, what I'd spurned, what I'd never learned as the fire burned. Make the most of the moments you got. Time you spend can never be bought. Make the most of the moments you got. Time you spend